storm roared like a wild beast, waves crashing against the hull of the Esperanza, with a force that rattled the luxury ship to its core. Inside the grand dining hall, laughter momentarily masked the chaos outside. Marcus leaned back in his chair, a glass of wine glimmering in the candlelight. "Did you hear about the couple who thought they could outrun the storm?" Charlie laughed, his voice booming over the clinking of cutlery. "Yeah, they ended up in the next state," Michael chimed in, slapping the table. The laughter echoed, but it was abruptly cut off as the ship lurched violently. The lights flickered, then went out. "Whoa!" Paul yelled, grabbing onto the table for support as the ship pitched again. "Everyone, stay calm." Anna's voice rose above the din, but the panic was palpable. The storm howled outside, a banshee wailing, and the Esperanza creaked ominously. "Not much of a vacation, huh?" Donald muttered, his voice tinged with dread. "More like a nightmare," Tiffany added, her eyes wide. Suddenly, a thunderous crack sounded as the ship's hull buckled under the strain. Water began to pour in and screams filled the air. "Man overboard!" Jennifer shouted as a wave crashed through the dining hall, sweeping away tables and chairs. Chaos erupted and the passengers scrambled for lifeboats, abandoning their meals in favor of survival. "Get to the deck," Marcus shouted, shoving through the crowd. Outside, the storm raged and the lifeboats were already half filled. Screams mingled with the wind as people fought for their lives. The ship listed dangerously, water swallowing it inch by inch. "Cyprian, help!" Helga cried as she struggled to keep her footing. Marcus turned back, grabbing her arm. "This way." But just as they made it to the edge of the deck, a monstrous wave crashed over the ship, sending them tumbling into the icy sea. When Marcus woke, sunlight streamed through the trees, dappling his face. Groaning, he pushed himself up from the sand, disoriented. "Hello?" he called, his voice hoarse. "Is anyone there?" "Over here." A familiar voice rang out. He stumbled towards the sound, heart racing. A group of survivors huddled together, some nursing wounds, others simply in shock. "Thank God!" Charlie exclaimed, rushing forward. "We thought we were the only ones." "Where's everyone else?" Marcus asked, scanning the beach. "Don't know," Michael replied, his face pale. "We were separated." "There were so many." As the reality of their situation sank in, the survivors began to gather. They were far from the chaos of the ship, washed ashore on a seemingly idyllic island. The golden sands and azure waters were deceiving, hiding the horrors they had just escaped. Days turned into weeks. They set up makeshift shelters of palm fronds and driftwood, and laughter slowly returned to the group as they scavenged for food and built a life together. "This place isn't so bad," Paul said one afternoon, sipping coconut water. "Yeah, if it weren't for the whole being lost at sea part." Zara chuckled, tossing a piece of fruit to Dimitri. "Or the possibility of cannibals lurking around," Jonathan joked, earning a chorus of laughter. 1 month passed, and the survivors had transformed the beach into a community. They constructed cabins, planted gardens, and even tamed a few wild animals. "Look at this," Anna called, holding up a handful of berries. "We might survive forever here. Or we might starve," Tiffany shot back, though she smiled. But just as they began to feel at home, a shadow loomed over their newfound paradise. The hunting party returned one evening, their faces pale and eyes wide with fear. "Marcus," Charlie gasped, stumbling into the clearing. "They took him." "Who took him?" Helga asked, her voice shaking. "The cannibals," Michael replied, breathless. "We saw them. They were hunting us." The group fell silent, the air heavy with dread. "Cannibals?" Jennifer whispered, eyes darting around as if expecting a spear to pierce the night. "Yes," Charlie said, his voice low. "They shot arrows at us. We barely got away. What do we do now?" Anna asked, her hands trembling. "We prepare for battle," Paul stated firmly, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. As night fell, the survivors gathered around a fire, strategizing in hushed tones. The flickering flames cast long shadows and the tension was palpable. "I can't believe this is happening," Rodriguez muttered, shaking his head. "First, we need to find Marcus," Otto replied. "He could be in danger." "But what if they're waiting for us?" Tiffany asked. "Then we'll be ready," Donald said, his jaw set with determination. They spent the night fortifying their camp, making weapons from sharpened sticks and fallen branches. "Here's hoping we don't end up as the main course," Zara quipped, trying to lighten the mood. But laughter was rare as sleep evaded them. The thought of Marcus held captive, weighing heavily on their minds. The next day dawned bright and clear, the island's beauty a stark contrast to the dread lingering in their hearts. They set out to find Marcus, armed with their makeshift weapons and a sense of resolve. "Stay close," Michael instructed, leading the way through the dense underbrush. The jungle was alive with sounds, chirping birds, rustling leaves, and the distant call of an unknown creature. "Do you think they're really cannibals?" Jennifer whispered, shuddering. "Probably just a rumor," Charlie said, but his voice lacked conviction. As they ventured deeper into the jungle, the atmosphere shifted. Shadows loomed and the air grew thick with tension. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes sent them into a defensive stance. "Get ready," Paul hissed, gripping his spear tightly. A figure emerged and they all froze, hearts pounding. It was a man, wild-eyed and disheveled, but alive. "Help me," he gasped, collapsing before them. "Who are you?" Anna demanded, kneeling beside him. "Please," he begged, "they're coming." "The cannibals." "Where's Marcus?" Michael asked urgently. "They took him to their camp," the man stammered. "I barely escaped." "Lead us," Donald commanded, and the man nodded, rising unsteadily. They followed him through the jungle, adrenaline coursing through their veins. With every step, the fear of what awaited them grew heavier. Finally, they reached a clearing. And there it was, a crude settlement. Primitive huts nestled among the trees. "There," the man pointed, trembling. Marcus was tied to a post, unconscious, while figures danced around a fire, chanting in a language they couldn't understand. "We have to act fast," Charlie whispered, eyes narrowing. "On 3, Paul said, counting down. With a battle cry, they charged into the clearing, weapons drawn. "Get him!" Anna shouted, pointing toward Marcus as the cannibals turned in shock. Chaos erupted. Arrows whizzed past, and the survivors fought with fierce determination. "Marcus!" Michael yelled, dodging a spear. But just as they reached him, the cannibals retaliated, and the situation spiraled. "Run!" Donald yelled, grabbing Marcus as the others covered their retreat. They stumbled back into the jungle, heartbeats thundering in their ears. "Keep going," Helga urged, glancing back at the pursuing cannibals. But as they raced through the thick underbrush, they heard the unmistakable sound of an engine, a boat on the horizon. "Look!" Tiffany shouted, pointing to the sea. A ship was approaching, and with it came hope. "Over here!" Michael waved frantically, but the cannibals were closing in. "Keep running!" Paul urged, shoving Marcus forward. The ship drew closer, the crew spotting the chaos on the shore. "Help!" Marcus shouted, his voice hoarse but desperate. The cannibals hurled arrows, and one grazed Michael's arm. "Go, go!" he yelled, pushing everyone toward the water. Just as they reached the shoreline, the ship dropped a lifeboat, and the crew scrambled to their aid. "Get in!" the captain shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. They clambered aboard, panting and bloodied as arrows whizzed past them. "Pull away!" the captain ordered, and the lifeboat sped toward the ship, leaving the island behind. As the waves crashed against the hull, the survivors looked back at the island, once a paradise, now a nightmare. "Is everyone here?" Jennifer asked, counting heads. "Just about," Otto replied, his eyes scanning the group. "But what about the others?" "We'll bring them back," the captain assured, his expression grim. And as the ship sailed into the horizon, the survivors clung to hope, the taste of freedom bittersweet on their lips. Weeks later, they stood on solid ground, the world returning to its familiar chaos. News reports of the storm and the missing Esperanza flooded the airwaves. But the survivors knew a truth far deeper than what the world would say. "I can't believe we made it," Zara said softly, looking out at the sea. "Yeah," Marcus replied, rubbing his wrists where the ropes had chafed. "But those memories, they'll never fade. Maybe we can turn this into something good," Anna suggested, a spark of determination in her eyes. "Yeah," Paul agreed, glancing around at everyone. "We survived, and we can help others too." The group nodded, a shared understanding passing between them. The island had taken so much, but it had also forged an unbreakable bond among them. "Together," Charlie said, raising a fist. "Together," they echoed, the spirit of survival igniting their hearts once more. Though their journey had been marred by darkness, the flicker of hope remained. Stories of resilience were yet to be written.